What is daylight saving time? Why do we switch between standard time and daylight saving time? Should we just keep one clock all year round without switching back and forth? And if we do, which clock to use? I hope this video can shed some light on these topics. We present our concept here by visually combining in a single clock these three factors: time of day, daylight between sunrise and sunset, and our main daily routines, which are our sleeping and working schedules. We first incorporate daylight in the clock. The daylight is indicated by the band, starting from sunrise to sunset. We also know that the length of daylight varies with season. Here we show the extremes of seasons, so we can have an idea for the whole year. The shortest daylight occurs on winter solstice, on or near December 21st, plus or minus 1 day. It starts at 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., for a total of 9 hours. The longest daylight occurs on summer solstice, on or near June 21st. It starts at 4:30 a.m. and ends at 7:30 p.m., for a total of 15 hours. When the sun goes from east to west, and when it's at its highest position overhead, it's called the solar noon. The solar noon is always at 12 o'clock in standard time. Also, the sunrise and sunset are always mirror image of each other in the clock, centered around the solar noon. We next look at our daily routines in the clock, namely sleeping and working schedules. The assumptions here are, the office or working hours are from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We start with these working hours and look at the activities around them. The commute to work, by car or by public transportation, takes half an hour. Also assuming it takes another half hour after waking up to prepare to leave home, like washing up and breakfast. So the complete cycle is, we wake up at 8, leave home to commute to work at 8:30, get to work at 9, work until 5, and finally commute back to home from 5 to 5:30 p.m. We now combine both daylight and routines in a single clock. As of 2023, most of USA adopts daylight saving time from spring to fall. So what's wrong with standard time that we don't use in that period? Focus on the right clock. If we were to keep standard time in the summer, the clock shows that sun rises at 4:30 a.m., but we sleep until 8 a.m. Shown by the arrow here, there is 3.5 hours that we sleep during daylight, which is not efficient use of daylight. That's the main drive that we switch to daylight saving time in the summer. So what happens when we switch to daylight saving time? At 2 a.m. in the morning, we move the hour hand forward by 1 hour. So 2 a.m. now becomes 3 a.m. However, we also have to shift the daylight hours together to make things consistent in this picture. This is shown in the following sequence in the right. This is what it looks like when it's done. Let's compare before and after time change. The new clock on the right shows the sun rises at 5:30 a.m., rather than 4:30, so sleeping in daylight is reduced from 3.5 hours to 2.5 hours. At the end of the day, sunset is now at 8:30 p.m., rather than 7:30, so daylight is longer in the evening. In effect, we move 1 hour of daylight in the morning while we sleep, to the evening, so we can enjoy longer daylight before we go to bed. This is the sole purpose of changing to daylight saving time in the summer. Another thing to notice, is that the solar noon, when the sun is at its highest point overhead, occurs at 1 o'clock p.m. rather than noon. So far we have been focusing on the summer season. Next we will include winter in the same picture for a glance of the whole year. Here we include both extreme seasons, so we have two bands around the clock, blue for the daylight and winter solstice, and red for the summer solstice, and with standard time on the left, and daylight saving time on the right. For the red band in the summer, we already concluded that daylight saving time is better. But if we look at the blue band in winter, on the left clock with standard time, we see that commuting back from work occurs after sunset in the dark, whereas for daylight saving time on the right, both commuting to, and from work, are happening during daylight. So even for winter, daylight saving time is better. Since daylight saving time is better for both summer and winter, why not just keep one clock all year around, without changing time, and that clock being daylight saving time? In fact, as of early 2023, USA is considering this option. We'll say more about this later. Then I ask myself this question, for single clock all year around, why is daylight saving time better than standard time? After all, standard time sounds more normal or natural. What's wrong with that? The answer is, the working hours of 9 to 5 is not in sync with daylight, as shown here with the clock on the left. Daylight in standard time is always symmetric with respect to noon, as mentioned before, but the working hours of 9 to 5 are not symmetric. Yet 9 to 5 is a common practice. In fact, there's a movie called 9 to 5. A reasonable question to ask is, what if our working hours are not 9 to 5, but 8 to 4, which are symmetric in the clock, and in sync now with the daylight? This is shown by the picture on the right. We should add that in grade schools, class hours are more like 8 to 4 than 9 to 5. And some companies, especially in the West Coast, are already practicing earlier hours, because they need to communicate with the East Coast. So the situations for working hours 8 to 4 deserve to be looked at. Here we repeat the pictures, except now the working hours are 8 to 4. These figures are the same as an earlier slide, except the routines are shifted 1 hour earlier. Again in red for the summer. In daylight saving time on the right, sleeping in daylight in summer is even shorter, reduced from 2.5 hours to 1.5 hours. But on blue in the winter. Commute to work in the morning is now in dark for daylight saving time on the right, while there is no such problem in standard time on the left. So the conclusion is quite different in this case. It's a toss-up between daylight saving time and standard time, for working hours of 8 to 4. One observation made is that working hours 8 to 4 with standard time is identical to 9 to 5 with daylight saving time. To conclude, I hope the picture presented here, combining time, daylight, and routines, in a single clock, helps to understand and see the reasons behind daylight saving time. The simple answer for the main advantage of daylight saving time is to reduce sleeping in daylight in the morning, and to lengthen daylight in the evening. To consider using one clock all year round without time change, daylight saving time is advantageous over standard time, but only if working hours are from 9 to 5. If working hours are shifted to 8 to 4, then there is no such advantage. In fact, the two cases, 9 to 5 with daylight saving time, and 8 to 4 with standard time, are identical. One way to look at this is that daylight saving time is a means to compensate for the asymmetry, with respect to noon, of working hours 9 to 5. For any symmetric working hours, like 8 to 4 or 7 to 5, standard time is likely to be better. Last but not least, as of early 2023, USA is considering keeping a single clock throughout the year, without changing time. And that single clock would be daylight saving time. The bill, called Sunshine Protection Act, had passed the Senate, unanimously in March of 2022. You probably know how unusual it is passing a bill with unanimous votes. If the bill passes the House and the President, daylight saving time will become effective and permanent. Here are the assumptions that have been made and some caveats. The hours quoted here are the actual local time in Philadelphia. We chose Philadelphia because it's at the center of its time zone, and near the middle latitude of the country. The picture presented here would be the same for all locations near the center of their own time zones. For locations near the edge of the time zones, daylight hours can shift as much as half an hour, plus or minus, but the overall logic presented here should still be valid. Here daylight is defined as sunrise to sunset. In reality, the so-called first light appears about half hour before sunrise, and last light appears half hour after sunset. In effect, visible light, although faint, is about 1 hour longer than the period from sunrise to sunset. And finally, time is rounded off to half hour for simplicity. I thank you for your interest and sharing time with me, no pun intended. Please share your opinion by commenting below.